Have you heard someone say, I just don't feel motivated anymore? And almost every time I hear that, I don't hear laziness. I don't hear lack of discipline. I hear someone who's mentally overloaded and doesn't realize it yet. Welcome to the bench session, where we unload the weight, one session at a time. I'm Juan, and this is a space for real, honest, and open conversations. The kind we usually only have with ourselves. No filters, no hiding. Just me, a mic, and a bench. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 2. Here we go. And let's kick things off a little bit. We're second month of the year. We want to go fitness level with this a little bit. Everybody that had started the year off strong in the gym, they felt motivated. They were all set for their New Year's resolutions. And you talk to them now and they're like, oh, I just don't feel motivated anymore. You know, we're what we call a motivation problem is not really a motivation problem. It's just, being overloaded a little bit. We're quick to label things. If we don't like feeling like starting something new, we call it procrastination. If we can't focus, we say we're distracted. If we feel flat or numb, we assume something's wrong with us. But most of the time, that label, unmotivated, it's not really accurate, is it? It's just the easiest word we have for something a little bit more complex. Overstimulation is it's something that a lot of people can relate to. A lot of people experience being overstimulated, especially with the way the world kind of works now with all the tech and all the news and all the social media and all the TikToks and all kinds of information. Overstimulation doesn't look traumatic. Most of the time it can be subtle, just the doom scrolling, no interest, just scrolling, opening apps just to close them again, wanting to do things, having a to-do list, but never quite starting that. You're busy every day, but you don't feel fulfilled. You don't feel like you're accomplishing much. You're tired, but not physically exhausted. That's not a motivation issue. That's just your mind saying it's had too much input and it needs a break. A good way to give your body and your mind a break is just to unplug, for the lack of a better word. Just turn everything off. Turn your phone. If you don't want to turn it off, put it on vibrate, put it away from you, and just kind of breathe and just sit and think and be one with your thoughts in a way, and just take a breath, realize that you're okay, realize that you just have a lot on your plate, you're overstimulated, there's just too much information coming in and not enough processing power for it. It's going to take a little bit, but you can get there. You can do that. You can take a break and quickly do a little mental reset, and you'll feel a whole lot better once you start doing this. Think about just if you want to understand how you can be easily overstimulated. Like I said, we got all the social media, we got so much information that we take in a day: emails, text messages, notifications, news, office chatter, office drama, somebody's opinion about something, some content that you're reading. There's always something pulling for your attention. And when we expect ourselves to be focused, driven, and clear-headed, our nervous system just doesn't get a break. So eventually it dulls that response. That dull feeling people describe as lost motivation is more than likely just mental saturation. And look, we've all been there in one way, shape, or form, where things just are just too much. You think you need to push harder. You think you need to be a little bit more strict. You need to be more disciplined. But turns out if you slow down a bit and paid attention, it wasn't that you didn't care. It was that you just had too much going on and too much information into your brain and nowhere for it to go. That moment created space, created quietness, created movement, less input. Things started to feel clear again. Again, we get into these tunnel visions, and sometimes all we need to do is just step back. Step back for a second. For a lot of people, stillness feels uncomfortable, and it's just one of those things that you gonna have to figure out a way for you to be okay with it. A lot of people tend to avoid being quiet or avoid any kind of silence because it makes you feel awkward. Stillness feels restless, not because something is wrong, but because we're not used to it anymore. We're not used to just being here, being there, being wherever you are, and just being for a moment. We've trained ourselves to fill every moment with some kind of input. So when nothing is pulling at us to get our attention, our mind doesn't really know how to settle down. It's so wired up and it's trying to find things to do. Motivation usually doesn't vanish. It gets buried under a bunch of noise, buried under the constant input that we're getting, buried under expectations to always be on point, locked in, whatever dumb shit that people say nowadays. But when all the noise drops, motivation doesn't need to be forced. It starts to return on its own. And it could be something simple. It could be just a random thought that comes into your head, and then that gives you that motivation to keep going. We just need to be able to understand what's going on. Not trying to be hippie or woke or any other bullshit. It's more, or maybe a little preachy, but it's more of the we need to figure out, and everybody's different, you need to figure out a way for you to understand how much your brain and how much your body is asking you to just take it easy. Take a moment, take a 10-minute break. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter what you're doing right now. If you're at work listening to this, if you're on your drive home, drive to work, whatever you're doing, take a break. If you're at work, take a break. Work's going to be there. Work is always going to be there. And no matter what you're doing, there's always going to be more work the next day and the next day. Okay? If you want to take anything away from this episode, take this. If you've been calling yourself lazy or unmotivated, take a moment. Ask yourself how much you're taking in and how little space you're giving your mind to breathe. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is reduce the noise, reduce the stress, not add more. We don't need more pressure. This isn't about leaving all your shit behind and running into the woods and be unplugged from the entire world for the rest of your life. It's about becoming more aware of how much input you're carrying. Motivation doesn't need to be chased. Most of the time, it just needs space for it to come back. Think about that for a little bit. Motivation just needs some time. Your brain needs some time. Your body needs some time. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to thank you for being with me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Same bench, same honest conversation. Stay real.